The Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS for short, is an amazing framework for businesses of all sizes to run their operations more smoothly and efficiently. From getting the right people in the right seats, to running more efficient meetings, to documenting your goals and quarterly objectives, the EOS framework is used by tens of thousands of businesses worldwide. And we at ZenPilot even use it internally. And it's been a great framework for us to run our operations more smoothly and efficiently and just help us stay on track of our goals and initiatives. So the purpose of this video is not to debate whether EOS is right for your business or even dive deep into how EOS works, but I want to show you how you can run EOS and build that framework inside of ClickUp. By leveraging ClickUp, you're able to keep everything in one place. Your rocks will be directly tied to work that's inside of your project management system. Your meetings can be run, documented, and stored directly inside of ClickUp. And this will make your meetings way more actionable because you can create tasks directly from your meeting docs. And your IDS, your Identify, Discuss, and Solve, can be run directly inside of ClickUp, which again is just going to make this process much more smoother and allow you to make all of this way more actionable, because where you're holding your meetings is also where all of your actionable items and tasks are going to live. And lastly, your team will easily be able to find your VTO, your scorecards, their rocks, and all of your long-term issues, because it's going to be built directly in where they're seeing their tasks on a daily basis. So by keeping your mission and vision directly where the work is to actually achieve that mission and vision, you'll be able to gain much more traction than you would otherwise. So let's begin and walk through how to set this up inside of ClickUp. All right, let's jump into ClickUp here and talk about how to run EOS directly inside of ClickUp. So again, this is not a video that's going to debate whether or not EOS is right for you or even everything about EOS, but more of focusing on how we can build the EOS framework inside of ClickUp. So if you're not sure what EOS is, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, I recommend you check out a few resources, one being the book, What the Heck is EOS? Another being the book, Traction. And then I feel that this is an awesome summary from the Process Hacker, going through the overview of what the heck is EOS, as well as potentially just go to the EOS website and talk to a EOS implementer that can help you kind of implement EOS for your business. But a lot of these are great resources that you can get started. I'd highly recommend, especially the level 10 meeting agendas. I think those are a great way to structure your meetings to make them more actionable and just make sure you're not wasting everyone's time, especially with a lot of us. We spend a lot of times in meetings. The L10 meeting framework is a great way and agenda to run your meetings. So that's EOS in terms of an overview of the structure and sort of the 6 main components that I'm going to be kind of diving into in this video and how you can build that inside of ClickUp. You'll see here this graphic, the main pieces, we have vision, the 8 questions that are shared by all. Those are going to be sort of looking at your core values, your core focus, 10-year target, marketing strategy, 3-year picture, 1-year plan, rocks and issues. That can all be documented inside of ClickUp. Your data, your scorecards, and your measurables. These are just kind of ways based off of that 10-year picture, 3-year and 1 year. How do we get there? We're going to be tracking weekly sort of measurements and looking at benchmarks, as in maybe it's website traffic for the marketing team, revenue, meetings booked, things like that. We're going to be looking at those weekly and filling that out. And those can be not necessarily built in ClickUp. I like to use a Google spreadsheet for that, but they can be embedded back into ClickUp. So again, everything's built and kind of stemming from one system, so it's easy to find and document all that information. So that stuff will be in ClickUp as well. The process, again, ClickUp is a great way to build out your processes to make sure everything's standardized, documented, and followed by all. So you want to have that in your project management system. Traction and issues, these are 2 big components as well. Traction a lot on the rocks in the meetings, so you can document all of your rocks directly inside of ClickUp. And for those that don't know, rocks are essentially sort of the 90-day initiatives per person or per the company. So each person's going to have 3 to 4 rocks per quarter, or 90 days. Essentially, this is what you need to do in the next 90 days. That's going to help us achieve our goal. So for each position, they're each going to have their own rocks that are basically their high level. These are what you're doing for the next 90 days that you need to focus on and complete. And then meetings, you're going to have all of your meeting agendas directly inside of ClickUp, which is a great way to make everything more actionable, because you can create a task directly from a ClickUp doc, as well as store all that so it's in one place and easy to find. And then issues, IDS, I'm going to go deep into how that's run inside of ClickUp. This is awesome because you can essentially create a ClickUp list that allows you to put all your issues in there, and you can kind of go through, prioritize them, as well as complete them when they're done, and create sort of to-dos after that's done. So we'll go through a lot of that, but then people, the right people in the right seats, you can build your accountability chart directly inside of ClickUp as well. Make sure that's stored there so that you can easily edit and update it when necessary, and also just put it front and center for everyone to kind of know who is in what seat, what are they held accountable for, and sort of what are the main components or parts of the business that they're in charge of. So all of that together is going to be built out directly inside of ClickUp. I'm going to go over this framework, but just so you know, for those that don't know EOS as well, those are the 6 main components that make up the EOS structure and framework. So in addition to that, how I'm building this out, it's always helpful to have something like that. As you can see here, what I've been kind of walking through, what the heck is EOS, as well as the EOS terms. It's always helpful to have that documentation directly inside of ClickUp as well. So if you bring anyone new on board, you want to make sure you have that right in front of them. So when they're onboarding, maybe they don't know what EOS is at all. This is a great way to have all of those resources directly in your project management system. So it's front and center when they come to get onboarded, they'll see all this. So helpful to have all of that in ClickUp here documented for anyone new coming on board to read a little bit about sort of how you run your business with EOS. So now that we've gone over sort of the high level of EOS, the framework, let's dive into building it out in ClickUp. So as you can see here, from a hierarchy standpoint, I have an EOS space with a couple folders. If you want, this EOS framework can be built inside of your operations space. And if you don't know our ClickUp hierarchy, I'll put a video in the top right here as well as in the description below. You'll want to watch that. It's going to go over all these spaces that I have here. But for EOS, I can build this as its own space if I want to keep all of this separate, as well as I could just build it in the operations space as well. So you can make your choice there. Sometimes it's helpful to kind of leave it separate and just put all of this in one spot as opposed to putting in the operations. A lot of this is operational focused, so you can build that in there if you want. However, in this, there's 2 main folders or folder structures here. So the first one is going to be your VTO, where you're going to store your vision traction organizer, obviously your accountability chart, rocks, issues, and things like that. In addition, then you're also going to have a folder for your L10 meetings. So your L10 meetings can be for your different teams as well as leadership. So you'll want to have a folder for all of those L10s. For Zenpilot, we have a delivery L10, which is where our client services team meets. We have our growth L10, where our sales and marketing meet together, as well as operations, where our operations teams meet there, and then a leadership L10 as well. So that'll be 4 different folders there. So you can just take this. This could be saved as a template. And I can kind of duplicate that for each team to have their own L10, an own folder to store the rocks, issues, and things like that. But before we get into that, let's go through our VTO here. So as you can see, this folder structure, we have 3 different lists as well as a document. Let's start at the document here. So this document is going to be a place for you to store your VTO and all the information that comes with your VTO. So if you've never seen what this looks like, this is a great example of it. You can find this on the EOS website. For those that are running EOS, you've already built this out, hopefully. This is just kind of a way for you to store your core values, your core focus, 10-year target, marketing strategy, 3-year picture, 1-year plan, rocks, issues list, things like that. So you'll want to have this documented, and you'll create this nice PDF of it, and this can then be embedded or linked out to from ClickUp. Again, putting everything in one place so we have a central source of truth. That way everyone can just come to one document, one place, and find everything they need to, rather than having to go ask for it or search through your Google Drive or something else to go find all that information. So link it out here. That's where you store your VTO. In addition, you'll have your accountability chart that can be built directly inside of a ClickUp whiteboard, or you can leverage a tool like Miro or Lucid, whatever you want to kind of build that out. Those are easy tools to use, but ClickUp is great because you can build that on a ClickUp whiteboard and it's easy to embed in here. I can embed Miro and Lucid as well. This way, when I want to go edit it, I'm in ClickUp already. I can easily edit it just like that. So you'll see that here, it's embedded, but I also have it directly in this list here. The accountability chart, I'm going to have this build out, and I can choose that, build that framework. As you can see here now, I have my visionary, integrator, sales, marketing, operations, finance. Again, this is just an example, but you want to make sure you have the person in that seat. So make sure that's labeled, as well as sort of the 5 things that really they're held accountable for, or their sort of main job description there, as well as make sure we have a hierarchy so everyone knows sort of who they're reporting to on each of those different things. So it's a great way to keep it front and center for everyone there. Easy to edit if we have to make changes, but just documented inside of our project management tool. So if anyone needs to know anything, they're already in ClickUp, they're already working on a ClickUp, they can easily go there and find it. So that's your accountability chart. In addition, you're going to have a company scorecard. So this can be built inside of a Google spreadsheet. I'll show you that in a second when we get to the L10 meetings here, but that can be embedded directly inside of ClickUp. For those that don't know how to do that, you can use your / commands, embed, and I can embed any website, or as you saw there, I can also embed a ClickUp list if that stuff is built directly inside of ClickUp. So that's pretty easy. You just put the link in there and you can, as you can see up here, I can see it directly inside of ClickUp. Or if I just want to have the link out to it, that's fine as well. But you'll have your scorecard there. Again, I like to use Google Sheets and then embed it back into ClickUp. And then lastly, we have our core values, our core focus, 10-year target, and 3-year picture. Nothing fancy here, just having it all in one place. It's documented out, easy for people to find, to see that information. The more that people can find that and sort of see our focus, our target, our 3-year picture, things like that, the more that we're going to keep everyone sort of on the same page. So if it's front and center for everyone, it's going to be keeping everyone on the same page and help build that traction, which is what EOS is all about. All right, so in addition to this document, you'll see I also have a few additional things inside of my EOS VTO folder, which are long-term issues and rocks. Let's start with issues. This is going to be a list that you have all of your issues stored. So essentially issues are things that are kind of getting in the way from you achieving your vision. So what are those? You would want those all to be documented directly in here. That way it's easy for us to go and prioritize them. It's easy for us to go and solve them. So when this is solved, I can easily close this out, as well as if I need to take any notes on this. It just makes everything much easier to keep in one place, have conversations about that. So when you're going through your L10 meetings, you're always going to be going through your issues. You're going to have issues for the company, the long-term issues, as well as issues for sort of each L10 meeting that can be built and kind of go through the same way of your IDS, your identify, discuss, and solve. We'll go over that more in the L10 folder here, but you'll want to store all of those in here. These can be added to multiple lists, which again, I'll go over in a little bit more detail when we cover the L10 meeting. But this is a great way, storing this in ClickUp. It's in one spot. We can all find them. We can go through all running our meetings, just have this list open and kind of go through as we need to prioritize them. We'll prioritize them with these flags here. And then we can, once we solve them, we can close them. And then we can all celebrate that we've solved that issue and we can move on to the next one. So it keeps everything in one place, easy to do your IDS and make sure all of those issues get solved. And if there's any action items from them, you can also sign that out directly in ClickUp. So it's all in one place there. So in addition to your long-term issues, as we discussed, are the rocks. So the way that your rocks are going to work, you're going to have sort of the company rocks. Again, those are the things that are going to be more of okay, when we're trying to solve our 3-year picture, 1-year plan, as well as the 10-year picture as well, we want to make sure that we have rocks for the company of where we need to get to. And then each person's going to have their own personal rocks as well. So the way that this works in ClickUp is I can store all of this in my all rocks list. So every single rock for the company is going to be in one spot. So anyone can come here. We could see all of them. For our leadership team, it's in one place. And I can come here and I can see a few things. And those are all going to be built into custom fields. So as you can see here, we have this rocks by assignee view. That way I can see everyone at the company, all of their rocks that they have. If you have any milestones, which I highly recommend you build out those milestones with a smart rock planner, you can add those as subtasks underneath all of these different tasks. So my rock 2, I could go and add all the subtasks with the due dates of when I need to achieve that. That way I kind of stay on pace. And if I don't hit that milestone, then the rock is going to be off track. So you can add those as subtasks. But here, what we're going to see a few custom fields are rock status. This is going to be a drop-down custom field. Very simple, off track or on track. Before every meeting, I'm going to be tasked out to update that. So when I come to a meeting, I'm going to read my rock and say whether it's on track or off track. If there's any issues that stem from that, again, we can add that directly to our issues list. But here, very easy, off track, on track. So leadership can come through and see all that, see how we're pacing in terms of reaching our vision there. Also, rock type. So is this a personal rock, company rock, or growth operations delivery? You can add those sort of per your teams and departments, as well as just the personal and company there. And then quarter, you can add on, this is a drop down as well, add on additional quarters as time goes on. That way we can see, we'll get a lot of historical information from this. So as quarters pass, if we complete rocks or we don't, we're always going to have that data in here and be able to see sort of which quarter was this, how did we do each quarter, and how did we progress. So that's going to keep everything documented. Again, even if I close this out, it might disappear from this view, but I'll still be able to access it when I create another view and if I'm showing closed there. So that's a great way to keep everything documented, sort of show what quarter we're at and see all that historical information. And then department, again, just growth, delivery, operations. Another drop down, just kind of lets us see sort of which department is this part of, how's the delivery team doing, how's the growth, and the operations. In addition, if you have a bunch of action items from this rock, you'll see we can link a bunch of tasks to that. So in my workspace, in my growth, delivery, or operation spaces where my tasks are actually living, I can go through and link a bunch of tasks directly just to this so that anyone can kind of see what are the tasks that you're doing and taking and completing to actually finalize and finish this rock. So we can tie all of that into one place. I could be able to see all the tasks that are tied to this specific rock. And then the last thing, which is super nice in ClickUp, is the tasks in multiple lists. This is something you want to turn on here, but you'll be able to directly with this. As you can see, I have this in the team rocks as well as the all rocks folder or list. So you want to make sure that all of these rocks are in your all rocks list. But then you also want to make sure that they are then put into the specific teams list. So here you can see I have in the team rocks list, which is meaning that it's right here. So that team would then become delivery, growth, or operations instead of just team. I can make sure I go and add that to a separate list down here to make sure that's in two places. So again, we have our sort of central place where all of our rocks live directly in this all rocks list. And then for all of my L10 meetings, I'm going to have those in the correct rocks list there. That way each department has a narrower view of just what rocks are tied to their department. So it's going to make it super easy to manage your rocks and see all of them at a high level as well as the department level. All right, and that's basically it for our rocks list. Again, a bunch of different views that you can create over here, whether it's a bunch of list view by the rock types, by quarter. I can kind of see a nice board view there, but a lot of times you'll be looking at the rocks by assignee list there. So after our VTO, now is where it gets super fun with our L10 meetings. So the L10 meetings here, again, it's going to be a folder with a few different lists as well as a document. This document is really going to be where everything's stored and where it's super nice in ClickUp to have this information. So if I go to my L10 meeting template, you'll see here, I can either save this as a template inside of ClickUp like this, save as a template, or sometimes it's easy enough to just take this and duplicate it just like that. And then what I can do is I can drag that, label it. So whatever meeting it is, I can just put the date on there. As you can see here, I have all my dates here for when my L10s were held. But with this, essentially what it is, it's just the bare bones of our meeting agenda. So we're going to have our segue. These are how L10 meetings are laid out. We're going to have our segue, customer highlights, scorecard review, onboarding, offboarding highlights, rock review, IDS, to-do list, cascading messages, meeting rating and feedback. You also see I have all my times on there. So whoever is has the timer, you always want to make sure someone's kind of keeping track of time. If we go over, we're just going to move to the next thing. So we want to keep these moving quickly and making sure we're not wasting time on any of these topics. But we'll have that bare bones sort of skeleton of it, agenda meeting here built out, and then I can take that, easily duplicate it. And then as you'll see here, it's super nice with sort of the way that the ClickUp docs are structured, because now I'm able to build sort of sub docs underneath this. So I can just have delivery team meeting and store all those underneath here. Or if maybe that gets too busy, as you have a ton of L10 meetings, you want to break that up into different quarters, I can then nest these these docs underneath another one. So if I labeled this here, that was Q1 or Q2 or whatever, I could put all of my Q2 docs in there. It makes it super easy to keep this organized and just keep all of your agendas in there to stay organized and have all that historical information. But to dive more into each of these agendas and sort of what's on here, again, we have our segue. Nothing special really about that. Just make sure you got a piece of personal good news as well as professional good news. Our customer highlights, that's just another thing that we're going to document right here. But this is where it starts to get a little bit more exciting in terms of the EOS framework built out inside of ClickUp. So the first thing is going to be your scorecard review. So either A, as I mentioned earlier, you can embed this directly into this document, or if you prefer, you can have a separate list just like this. As I go here to the scorecard list, this is going to be a Google spreadsheet that is then embedded directly inside of ClickUp. So you can see this here. I can see all the information. If I want to edit it, I'll kind of go and go to this actual spreadsheet. I can link out to that again in the meeting document, but it's pretty easy. All I have to do is go to view, embed, and then enter the URL of your scorecard directly here. And this way it's front and center again for everyone. So as they come here, they can easily fill it out. They can easily see it. So as we go, we're just going to read through this, whoever really owns this specific metric, and we can say, hey, is this on track or off track? And you can add some conditional formatting in this spreadsheet that essentially says, if it's less than the target, we'll make that red. If it's higher than the target, that's going to be green. So makes it super easy to track everything. Again, you'll want to have a scorecard for each team here to make sure that we're keeping up with sort of our goals and those metrics that we have. So that can all be built in the spreadsheet and then linked back and embedded inside of ClickUp to, again, create that central source of truth, stem out from one place. So that's your scorecard. You're going to go over that every single L10 meeting. That can be embedded directly in the stock or in that ClickUp list as I showed you there. We'll go over onboarding and offboarding highlights. A little bit more on this in a second when I go over IDS here. But the onboarding and offboarding highlights, just want to make sure that's labeled, and we can talk a little bit about the CRM and how that kind of ties together with this as well. But the rock review, again, as we mentioned earlier, that's going to be built out in those all rocks list and then be added to another list directly in here. So all of these are in the all rocks list, but also in this list as well. So this is just the delivery team's rocks here. I'm not going to see everything else because I don't need to focus on that, but we're just going to kind of go through. Each person's going to read out their rocks. They're going to talk about the rock status, whether it's on track or off track, and we're going to make that super easy. And then we can also, again, have those milestones in here as subtasks. So that rocks list will live in here as well. Again, use the tasks in multiple lists feature to have that in both of those lists there. But again, I can take that and I can either just link out to it there, or I can easily go and I can embed any ClickUp list that I want to. So I can go and just search for that, and I can put in the rocks list there so that I can see that inside of this document rather than me having to go to the list right here. So whether you want to run your meetings like that, have it all in this document embedded, or you want to kind of go through each of these lists, it's really up to you. But it makes it super easy to run through all this information. All right, so now IDS, and we're going to talk a little bit about this in a second. But IDS, the way that this is going to be run is you're going to have all of your issues listed out in here. So as you can see here, I have my issues. So once we get to this IDS part of our meeting, everyone before the meeting is going to be assigned to add issues to this list, and they can provide context into that issue, whether it's screenshots, a video, or just a description of it. They can leave that description right here. Makes it super easy for us to kind of know what is this issue. So they can go and explain it, but it's always helpful to have some notes directly on this task in here. So before we start this, all of these can be at a priority of nothing. So these can just be cleared out. And as we go to prioritize which issues we want to talk about first, we can just prioritize 3 of them. So all those can be made urgent. So as you have more and more issues in this list, you're going to have some that are urgent. We'll start with those. And then some that may be high, normal, or low, or just either urgent or nothing. So we'll make sure we prioritize and talk about each of these. We're just going to go down the list. This one, and this one. We're going to try to solve it. As you'll see here, once we solve that, we can go ahead and close it. That makes it super easy for us to solve those issues. But in addition, those that are submitting this issue, they'll label themselves as the issue submitter, and they'll talk about whether this is decision needed, info to share, or info needed, just so we can have a little bit more context in what kind of issue this is for the team. But it makes it super easy for us when we're going through our L10 meetings to have that issues list to go through, and just as we solve them, we're going to close that task. And then the best thing about ClickUp here is that even though those were closed, we can still go back to see all the issues that we solved. So we have a lot of historical information inside of our ClickUp workspace. So that's your IDS. Another thing that I said I wanted to get back to is going to be this little note here. So active accounts with a health score of 3 or lower will automatically be added to the issues list. And that kind of goes with this as well. Both of these things, onboarding and offboarding highlights, can be tied to our CRM. So our CRM, I have another video about this. We'll put up in the top right here, but also in the description below. If you build out a CRM in ClickUp, this is a great way to store sort of all of your deal information. So I can have labeled in here my onboarding, offboarding, or inactive. You'll see here status is onboarding active, offboarding, or inactive. So that kind of gives me, I can see that list here and then document that in my level 10 meeting agenda. But in addition here, the really cool part about this is if you have your account managers every single week go through and update this list to make sure we're kind of adjusting those health scores, talking about more about why they would be happy or unhappy. We can make sure all of that's documented here. But as they adjust this health score, I can create an automation directly inside of ClickUp that allows me to say whether your health score is a 1 to 3 scale or just a green, yellow, red. I can essentially say when any time a client here gets marked yellow, that automatically adds this task here, not moving it, but it's going to add this task to multiple lists. So the shrimp farm CRO retainer, if this one gets moved to red or say yellow, maybe it's green and then it gets moved, we can automatically add that to the issues list here. So what that's going to do is if there's a problem with a company or one of our clients, that's going to automatically add that to our issues list. So we make sure that we talk about that and we don't forget about it. All right, you're probably wondering how I actually set up that automation. So let's go over it real quick. So from here, as you can see in my deals list, I can go and I have an automation here, or I can go to my automations by clicking on the list settings here as well. If I want to do that, we'll see that automations right there. So that's just a couple more clicks. So I can go to this automations right there if I want to. But here, essentially what the custom or the automation is going to look like is when this happens, the custom field changes of health score from any, or it can just be green to any of the other ones. But let's just say it changes from any to yellow. I can add to the list of team issues. So let's try that out. Let's say that Laverne's Pies here, this one changes from green to yellow. That's going to be triggering this automation. And what that's going to do is as I come down here, that's going to add that directly into this list. So what that's going to do is, again, that just makes it so we need to talk about this. We're seeing it pop up here. Let's make sure whatever this issue is, why this customer is now at a yellow health score, or as I had in that document, a 3. If that's your scale, we need to make sure we talk about this. And once it's solved, instead of completing this, we're just going to go through and you can easily take this and make sure we get it out of this list. So now we've solved that. We're going to move it out and we're good to go. So that's your issues list. Again, great way to go through your identify, discuss, and solve and make it super actionable, easy to follow, easy for people to add issues and kind of give some context to that in the comment or the task description of that task. So again, that can either be embedded directly in here or you can just link out to that from this document if you want to do it that way. And then the last thing here, or a couple more things, we have our to-do list. The main big thing in this is you'll see here, the last list we have is a to-do list. And so within this to-do list, this is going to be sort of any action item that comes out from our meeting, as well as our actual just L10 meeting preps and the actual meeting. So we want to make sure all that's inside of ClickUp. So you can see here, everyone is going to have to prepare for this meeting. Each person's going to have a task, and that's going to be recurring every single week. They're going to go here. This one's assigned to me, and I'm going to have to update my rocks. So I'm going to have to say whether it's on track or off track. I'm going to update my scorecard there as well if there's any metrics that sort of I'm in charge of documenting. And then if I have any issues, I'm going to make sure I add those to the issues list as well. So you're going to have a couple checklist items, just kind of what I read through there, add issues, update scorecard, update rocks, make sure I do all those things. Then everything's linked out pretty easily here. So I just basically have to go to one spot and I can easily go through and add my issues, adjust my scorecard, and make sure I have my rocks on track or off track based off of what the status of it is. So it makes it super easy for everyone. They're gonna have those tasks. And then in addition to that, they'll also have their either running or attending that L10 meeting as well. So make sure all those tasks are in ClickUp for people to time track, have that time estimate to them to make sure that's in their workload view as well. Just help us kind of see capacity there. And then lastly on this is from your to-do list, you can also, if you want to, say something comes from an issues list, you can come here and I can say task number 1, whatever it may be. In ClickUp, it's great. And that's why I said it's super actionable inside of these meeting docs. So I can go create a task and make sure that gets put in the right spot. So this is going to be in our to-dos. I can set a due date on that. I can assign that to someone. Let's say it's me. Let's say this is going to be due Friday. And then my time estimate, make sure that's on there as well. Let's just say this is going to take 30 minutes. Now I can go create that task. And so that's going to live inside of our to-do list here, as well as over there. So just make sure when I do close that, you'll see this is going to get updated. Let's close that out. And then we'll see when we come back to this issues list or this to-do list, that's going to be green right here. So now that just kind of gives us a nice status of it. So that's going to be tied directly to this doc, but also living in that list as well. And then just the last things about this are going to be our cascading messages. Those can be all documented here. And then we want to go over the meeting rating feedback. Everyone gives a 1 to 10 there, as well as their feedback on what can make this better. So we can leave all that documented, and then we're going to have all that historical information there as well to make sure we're making our L10 meetings better each time we go through them. But overall, that's the EOS framework built out inside of ClickUp. Again, super simple, just a couple of folders, lists, and then making sure those rocks and everything is documented in there. Big part of this is going to be running your L10 meetings inside of ClickUp, which is a great way to make everything more actionable and continue to make sure everyone's on the same page. And there you have it. That's how you can run EOS directly inside of ClickUp. So if you like this video, please hit subscribe. We're going to continue to deliver content specifically for agencies trying to get the most out of ClickUp. And to help you get started running on EOS or just running L10 meetings, we've built an L10 meeting document template directly inside of ClickUp. You can download that for free on our website. The link is going to be in the description below. So go ahead and download that and start running L10 meetings directly inside of ClickUp. Or if you're ready to start running EOS completely inside of ClickUp or just transform your operations, go ahead and go to zenpilot.com/call and book a call with one of our experts. At ZenPilot, we've helped close to 3,000 different agencies from all over the world build more productive, profitable, and healthy teams by streamlining their operations in ClickUp. So whether you're looking to boost productivity, improve profits, improve team health, or just create a system that runs without you so that you can finally go on that well-deserved vacation, we're here to help. Taking your operations seriously will change your life, and I want you to experience this life-changing impact. So I'm looking forward to you being our next agency success story. We'll see you again next time.
Can I make no more? I can't replace it. Trying hard just not to waste it. It's about time. Yeah, it's about time.